Check 3, 2, 1.
I almost asked you.
Hey.
I was like, nah, maybe he just muted us on Skype and not is recording.
No. Whole damn thing.
Whole damn thing. Good evening, fans
No.
and non-fans alike.
Stream first. Set all the streaming stuff up.
I did.
Last week you like got halfway into the intro and then started the streaming stuff.
No, the stream's going.
All right, start over then.
No, forget it. No, it's the show. Let's go. 177. Wait, where are we? No, not 177.
You said 177. That's what you have on Twitter, so it better be.
It's 177.
It's 177. Don't worry about these jerks I'm talking with, because they're all jerks anyways. Jerks.
You've been drinking, haven't you?
Actually, just coffee. No, I haven't been drinking. Okay. All right. I'm not starting over. With me, as always, John Congdon.
Hello.
And my good friend Thomas Rideout.
Ahoy, hoy.
Oi. Oi, oi.
We're making sure we keep the title going, right? The ugliness.
The ugly. Keep it ugly, man. We just, we've been having too good of a time recording. It's so funny because recording this show, I have my ups and downs. Like, it feels like such a grind, but then we hit a few weeks where it's like, God damn, those were some good conversations, man. I actually enjoy this.
That once in a blue moon.
Blue moon.
And then we have episodes like this one.
Without what is it? A dream in my heart?
Why are we singing?
I don't know. Blue
moon.
Moon.
We should stop that right away.
I've already started singing. So let me put that in my tweet. I've already started singing.
Gotta tell people not to tune in. I think that's what you're doing. Eric, you start us off this week. How was your week?
Jeez. Okay. Pretty good. I can't complain. I've been doing some coding, refactoring, as a matter of fact, which I really enjoy doing. Not simple refactoring either. Some like big refactoring. So yeah.
So do you have unit tests around the code you're refactoring to make it easier?
No, mainly because the first time we implemented it, we're making calls to third-party services, so that's actually part of my refactor is to start mocking those responses, so that if we have the need to do more coding in the future, we have some tests to actually run against. So that's actually part of my whole refactor is to add tests to it.
Did you know that you can do mocks in Postman?
Yeah. Postman has a whole API mocking service.
Well, they have a whole test suite too, don't they?
Yeah, I just started using that this week.
Yeah, that's a good point. But the problem with doing the mocking in Postman, well, first thing, one of the things we have to do is each service has their own very special snowflake sort of response. So we're having to actually go through and figure out what those responses are again before we can start mocking them. But if you mock in Postman, that doesn't do the next developer who comes along and pulls down the repo any good, does it?
You can share your Postman collections.
Yeah, and you can export the collection to a file that you could include in your Git repo.
Then they need to know. Then they need to be aware that they have to deal with two tools. Then, right?
Yeah.
I guess the question is, what's the benefit of having Postman mock it? With the exception of you could actually, I guess, test it outside your code base, but
you can also have it automatically test things in production if you want. You could have it test constantly testing your staging or your your test servers, I think. But I think what you're saying is you're putting the mocks into something like PHP unit to make part of the CI flow, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
I've been doing good.
I use a corporate account for Postman, so all my stuff gets immediately shared to all the other
Yeah, we have that as
people
well.
doing
And
it.
it's not cheap either. Postman is one of the more expensive services I think we actually pay for.
Well, now I'm starting to understand why.
Well, we don't even use half of the features of it. We use it mostly as a just as an API tool, not so much all the services behind Postman, which we really should take more advantage of.
Right, which is how I've always used it, but it's got like a whole comment section and it's got example code that you can add. You can do pre-request scripts to fetch updated data, and I mean it's got a ton of features.
So I use the pre and the post scripts and the testing piece occasionally, not as much as I'd like to. I do on the post execution, like storing the bearer token if I'm doing OAuth. Although Postman has a whole OAuth implementation already built into it, but it's always a pain in the butt for some reason to work.
Yeah, and you can export collections as API documentation. So if you have your whole API built out through Postman, you can just document it within there and do exports straight to file.
Yeah, they actually send it to Markdown, don't they?
Uh-huh.
I did it when they first announced it, and it was really cool. I haven't used it enough. It was more like, oh, this is new and shiny, and it looks really nice, but to actually make it part of your workflow, if you don't do it right away, it just doesn't stick. Just like anything else, you gotta continuously use it.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of sticking, I mean, I actually just started trying out a new project management tool. I'm in the hunt of some sort of better solution to manage tasks for our developers because nothing feels right, and everything I've used up to this day, I just think things just seem to get lost, and one of the I had come to the conclusion some time ago that one of my challenges was I'm dealing with too many projects, too many developers, and I needed some sort of workflow, some sort of automation to bring my attention to certain actions. And so I'd actually finally broke down and paid for Zapier and started trying to create workflows that would do that for me. That would like start to add things to my to-do list, when certain actions were taken within streams. But even Zapier, as good of a service as it is, it had like pretty limited sort of interfaces to the PM systems we're using. So I actually started another just yesterday, I think it was, or today. Maybe it was today.
I think
Just started.
it was yesterday.
It was yesterday. Just started using another PM system that actually has that Zapier sort of mentality kind of baked into it, and I'm hoping it works.
And it integrates with Zapier. In the case
And it
that
integrates with Zapier. Yeah, that's a good point.
something's missing.
So it's it has a bunch of services that it interacts with, and then it has these actions that will kick off. Based. It's very Zapier-ish. Where
I was just checking
if this
if they
happens
had any
here,
sort of referral program, but they don't. So screw them.
any what program?
A referral program, so we can say, "Hey, we're using this. Use our referral code." Nope.
Yeah, so we won't mention who they are, but it's interesting. I don't know. It's just so much. Project management is a pain in the ass. I swear. It's not really. It's just trying to. It's just keeping track of what everybody's doing and trying to coordinate. It's like herding cats.
Yeah.
Which my dog has gotten very good at.
Hurting your cats.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they tend to do that, don't they? I've been doing a lot of unit testing this past week, which has felt really good. Speaking of which,
Just like fresh or adding to unit test?
uh, fresh, working on new code, unit testing it, learning more about unit testing. Like I've always known, like I'm a hacker. Like I can make unit tests work. I can hit the edge cases pretty well, but learning how to write good unit tests is different. And been working on that, getting some mentorship from Tim Lytle, who's like, you should do this because then it makes sure that you've called these things before you call those, especially in your mocks. And like, but my unit test passes. I'm hitting all the edge cases. Leave me alone. No, do it right. And then he cracks the whip, and next thing you know, I'm making changes.
Are you
Must be
still
nice.
Are you still doing TDD or?
I'm trying to. I
Yeah.
try. Sometimes it's with what I've been working on. It's kind of refactoring to a point where I'm taking old code that was really hard to test, and we're moving it over. And we had a framework of here's how we're going to do things. So I could really move the majority of that code into a new class, and then test everything else around it. So some of it I did TDD, some of it I had a test controller that I could just hit and say, yep, it works. Now I'll go add the test because I'm lazy.
Yeah, that's me. I still can't get my head around TDD. I'm always after the facts, sort of. Then I write my test.
When I do it, I love it. It's again same thing. Practice what you preach, stick to it. Make it a habit, and it's just not a good enough habit for me.
Yeah. What about you, Thomas? What have you been up to?
Well, I've been tinkering a lot with Postman and seeing how much I can actually milk out of it, because I have it and haven't been playing with it at all. And I'm working on an API project, so it doesn't, it makes sense to be spending time doing that.
Yeah.
And I did a pretty massive, annoying refactor. We got into a position with the project where one of the models was poorly named and almost directly conflicted with another model that we were starting to develop for. So basically the term scene should have been the term asset. And I had to go into the system and use PHP Storm's refactor tool to rename every instance where I called the object, the model, the resource, the views, every variable, every route, and that was a rough one.
It's beautiful when it works.
Well, that was the thing, is that having done it through PHP Storm for the most part, it was so fast. I mean, it really did just find all the usage locations it could find and sweep through it. And I wish it were a friendlier keybind for mass reassignment. It's Shift F6.
Yep.
Which is just like, yeah, you're not going to remember that when this project's over and it happens again.
I use it all the time.
Really?
I do it just for the variable in the scope I'm in, just to rename a variable. It's the same thing for renaming variables, renaming classes, files. So it's
Shift F6 on the Mac as well?
Yep.
I don't think I've learned any of the PHP Storm key bindings. I don't know why. I've never taken the time to learn them. As a Vim guy, I mean, my whole life is key bindings, and I don't take the time to learn the PHP Storm ones.
Yeah. The issue with some of the refactoring with like what you're doing is when you're using dynamic classes, or you put you're creating the class name and then newing it up so it doesn't know to change it there.
And that's where Laravel from the 4.6 days has really evolved. There's a lot of places in the code that are still from the older Laravel versions that reference classes by the string of the name of the class instead of calling the static class name off of it. And so, if I were working on an older portion of the code, I'd have to worry a lot about that. Is the service provider getting properly set and all that stuff? But in this case, almost everything I'm doing is being done dynamically, so it worked out really well.
Good.
But like Eric said, he doesn't do the keybinds for PHP Storm, and that's because I know Eric is a Vim guy.
I am a Vim guy. Which
So
makes it all the more awkward.
I thought he'd be really excited for this new Chrome plugin called Vimium.
That plugin is not new. I've been using it for years. I have it on Chrome and Firefox.
Of course.
And you're going to laugh, but it's very helpful. It's super helpful, man. It's a great plugin.
Oh no!
Come at me.
It can't possibly be.
It absolutely is. You sit at your keyboard.
He does use it. He's tried getting me to use it. I've tried it a couple times, and I just can't get my head around.
I mean, it's probably. I'm sure it's expanded a lot, but I probably use it in a very limited manner. But yeah, I absolutely use it.
So my little joke backfires.
I don't know why that would surprise you. On any level.
You know what? It shouldn't anymore.
I mean, your hands are on the keyboard. I think it really just shows the difference between a Vim user and a non-Vim user. For you, you always have one hand on the mouse, and it seems very natural to when you go to a web page to start scrolling with your mouse. For me, it's not. My hand's on the keyboard. When I get to a web page, I start scrolling with my mouse, with my keyboard. I do finds. You hit O, it opens up the URL. You can type a new URL and at me, man.
See, and I can't even use a BIOS without a mouse now.
When is the last time you dove into a BIOS?
A couple days ago. So my son came home with his friends and a bunch of computer hardware, and one of his friends could not get his computer working. It would turn on, and everything would light up, and then it would turn off. And it turns out that he's running a 500-watt power supply and about 700 watts of LED lighting and liquid cooling on his machine. So I had to explain to him that he needs to unplug his LED mouse pad and not use that for a while. But then I, got into the BIOS to check out what his temps were and make sure everything was working okay. And 5 teenage boys are around me, and as soon as the BIOS pulls up, they just go, "Whoa!
You're hacking my computer!"
Yeah. And my son behind them goes, "See, I told you he's a god, man." And I was like, "Listen, it's just pressing delete when the computer turns on. That's all I did so far."
The old days. I don't deal with that crap anymore.
Yeah, I can't tell you last time I've dove into a bio. Been forever. I'm gonna show people on screen how I.
This was a $4,000 PC that I was playing with. It's ridiculous.
Oh wow! I need to update DNS for PHP Ugly.
Why is that?
Apparently, PHP Ugly is pointing to a server. Oh, maybe that's because I had. Oh, I bet you I have to. Yeah, I bet you have to.
I'll do it live.
Do it live.
Pointing at Simplecast.
Is www.phpugly pointing at Simplecast because phpugly.com isn't.
Yeah, they both are.
Not for me. So everybody who's
Fix your
watching the
DNS.
stream, everybody, I think it's the Google DNS. Everybody who's watching the stream, everything you've seen me do so far, I have yet to touch my mouse. Everything is switching tabs, navigating, going to Google, all that. I've just all been keyboard bindings.
You must have
And
that.
still only one hand on the keyboard. Don't ask why.
Does it work for you?
Yeah, it does. I got it, Thomas.
Must be me.
I told you guys last week about the highly customized and personalized LinkedIn message that I got.
Yeah. Yep.
And I broke down and actually responded and had a conversation with them today.
Oh.
And
remind me, what was this LinkedIn? Remind the listeners.
The position is for a what did they call it?
It was an architect, senior architect.
Yeah, it was an architecture and primary.
It was a lead.
Yeah, it's a lead position, and it's an interesting position because it's not a management position. It's sort of a technologist position. To be a thought leader, and an ideas person, be up on the latest technology and introducing it and telling people, hey, this is the thing that we're going to lean towards. And it's a very intimidating prospect. I was talking to my wife about it after the phone call, and just sort of saying, like, what it puts me in a position I haven't really been in outside of being one of the co-hosts of SDPHP and the user group, where it's like acting as that mentor position. And then I had the sudden realization, I was thinking to myself, I'm kind of too young for this, but I'm also 39, so I'm not as young as I thought I was. And then had a sort of existential crisis about that for a little bit. And my wife asked me, why wouldn't you take the position if it was offered? And my only answer was that it's scary.
It's a valid reason.
It's not a great reason.
Yeah.
But I mean, my history is only with 5 companies in the last 20 years.
So does your boss know that you had a job interview, or are you just talking about this on a public podcast?
Yeah.
We talked about it last week about it and saying why wouldn't you talk about it?
Right.
We were in the same position. If somebody was looking.
And they did tell me during the conversation today that they had caught up on a couple episodes of PHP Ugly and were very interested in my opinion on things. And my immediate thought was, oh no. What did I say?
Don't listen to the last episode.
Yes, John, I know, and it does not make life any easier.
So I had to explain that this is a satire podcast, and I'm actually much smarter than I put on here.
I play a character, man.
Yeah, it's a well-defined character. Although he was extremely impressed that we do a weekly episode.
If you come work for us, you won't have time for that.
Well, that was one of their contingencies for the position, was this kind of activity, this kind of community involvement and engagement and interest in learning in PHP. And I had told my wife a long time ago, the community stuff that I do it because I enjoy being with the community and doing it, but its value is also produced in where it leads my career later on in life, is that being involved in the community is also a career component.
It definitely is, yeah.
And she was looking at me like, yeah, but you're saying you might not want the job. I'm like, shut up, I'm nervous, I'm scared.
Well, change is hard.
It's very intimidating.
And you're going to be in a position where you have to go to conferences. Sorry.
There you go. You have to interact with people.
They definitely weren't lying when they said they pay at or above market rate.
So do I take there's an interest?
Absolutely. You know, I think he asked me why I was interested, and I explained how in smaller shops there is a ceiling. There is a financial ceiling as well as a position, a title ceiling. Mm-hmm. And that in order to really improve your lot in life in small shops, you have to move to another small shop. Right. Well, you're either hoping somebody dies or you're hoping that you get a position at a new location. And I don't think it's not hoping someone dies, just like fingers crossed.
I was like, Jose, you been riding that motorcycle? No, you really should ride it more frequently. I wouldn't even wear the helmet. I just go all out.
You know, in Colorado Springs, they don't even wear helmets, and don't let a broken leg stop you. Yeah, so like, I think it would be dumb of me to not entertain the idea, because I'm at another plateau where I'm at, and the only way to continue on with my career is either accept my plateau as the last one I'm at, or move up another level. You know, so it's
a lot of people in our industry believe in moving every 2 years to keep that.
That's crazy.
That momentum. I tend to agree. I'm a more of a long-term type person, but that is the thing.
I understand that it's a thing, but you know, so much of the conversation revolved around industry knowledge and how, as a programmer, you come into a situation where you don't have industry knowledge and you need to gain that business logic that's specific to that industry, and that can take way more than 2 years. You can, you know. That's why every developer looks back on code from 2 years ago and says, "God, I was so dumb back then." It's because you're always advancing that knowledge.
I was refactoring today. I'm like, what the hell was I thinking when I wrote this?
Yesterday.
He was thinking whiskey good.
All right, since you haven't left your old place yet, how have you come on the server sent events?
So, after the episode, I wasn't going to work on it anymore. After the episode last week, I wasn't going to work on it anymore. And then we ended up working on it for a little while. And I couldn't let it go. So I sat back down, and I got it working, and I figured out what I didn't understand about PSR4, because it's never worded very well. But in PSR4, when you define your source directory, it is an alias for the vendor name of the project. And from there you define the project name. And so it really was a file system issue. If I had used PSR0, wouldn't have been a file system issue, because PSR0 just trusts the code knows where it is, and it reads the whole directory structure.
Mm-hmm.
So you got your package working?
I got it working. I actually got it outputting a stream of events to the client saying an event hasn't occurred or an event has occurred. But then the next day, I was told, hey, we're not looking at doing this project anymore right now, so hold off on anything you're doing for that. And I was perfectly happy with the fact that I got it to work. But I probably will go in and finish it tomorrow.
You gonna release the code?
Of course.
You gonna release it under the new tree license?
What license? What?
There's the new tree license out there now.
No, there isn't.
It's like the postcard license, but instead of promising to send a postcard, you're paying to have a tree planted. Did you not see this? Oh, I gotta find it for you now.
No.
Shoot. Where did I see this at? You know who came up with it was Phil Sturgeon. I'm looking for it now. I'm looking. I don't know where I'm going to find this at. Oh, here it is. Treeware. It's called the Treeware license. Here, I'll throw it in the. I'll throw it in Slack for you, and then I'll share this with the streaming crowd who actually watch our show.
Oh, so
share my
if
screen.
they use my software, they are obligating themselves to plant a tree.
Yes, exactly. Phil Sturgeon and James Mills came up with it. And I don't know if you're aware, but Phil Sturgeon has been doing this crazy bike tour all over Europe, raising money to plant trees. And then the Laravel community also had an initiative to plant trees. I forget what that one was called exactly, but yeah, there's a whole tree license now that you can make as part of your open source software.
It looks like it's a subset of our superset of MIT's. I don't know how that works.
Right.
It's the MIT license, and you add a piece to it.
Well, this isn't too new of a concept. In the 70s, there was some shareware that was under the kindness license.
I remember that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you just had to do something good for someone else, and that was the license.
Yeah. Cool stuff, man. So there, you got those gray hairs. You can release it under.
Those gray hairs from the 70s were really, really hippies.
Oh, yes, I should stop sharing my screen.
So treeware.earth. If you want all the information on it.
Yes,
can I get a printed copy of that website?
Such an evil person. You're just evil to the core. It's
How long
amazing.
is the license? Like, printed?
You're just...
I'm just curious. Wow, there's a bunch of people using it. This would drive me nuts if I found out that I was using, like, 30 tree licenses and didn't know it.
Hey, John,
are you saying you don't read your licenses? What?
You had something on the Trello board last week that I don't know if we ever got to or not. It's sitting here in show topics. It's our pledge to open source from PHP Storm blog.
Oh, that was when we were talking about PHP Storm paying Derek Reathens.
Oh, gotcha.
Bug.
I don't think that made it into show notes. Yeah, we'll put it in this week's show notes.
Yeah.
So I'm getting some flack in our Discord.
Surprise, surprise.
Does Eric know that twit.tv that Leo Laporte does is not Twitch, as he keeps calling it in a recent episode? Okay. Yes, I do know there is a difference. I apologize if I was calling it Twitch. It was twit.tv. It's funny because if I remember correctly, when he started that, either Twitch or Twitter, one of those two, were starting up at the same time, and there was there was a. It felt like there was a name conflict with that and his show. I think it was Twitter at the time because his is.
Twitter was before the .tv domain.
Huh? Yeah, maybe it was Twitch then. I don't remember. But yeah, I guess I was calling his network Twitch last week. It wasn't. It's twit.tv. Which I still haven't watched again.
Do you remember that time where Leo Laporte had a nudie picture of his wife on his watch?
What?
You guys didn't hear about that?
Yeah.
No.
It was right when the Apple Watch came out, and he was doing a video presentation thing, and for some reason, as he was scrolling through his watch, there was a picture of his wife on there.
That's embarrassing. You know, when you live with this technology day and night, stuff like that's it's gonna happen here. You know.
Well, then, Mr. Doom and Gloom, slow down.
I don't. All right. What
Speaking
else we got
of,
going on?
do you guys follow the Iowa caucuses at all?
Oh man.
Uh,
I mean, listen, we don't like to talk about politics, but this hit way too close to home.
Yeah. This isn't even politics. This is just bizarro.
Oh my gosh! And the development group who created the software, their name is just being dragged through the mud like crazy.
Shadow Inc.
Shadow Inc. Which is
Why would
funny
you?
because, you know, John and I talk about it all the time about how DiegoDev is not a good, from a marketing perspective, not a good name for code development. Nobody
Sure it
understands.
is.
Nope. Nobody understands who we are, what we are. You
yeah,
know,
I
we've talked about coming up with new names, maybe keeping like DiegoDev as like the parent company name and coming up with other names for our coding. And like I see stuff like this and it makes me want to do that more. Like I want to, if I have to disconnect my association with a name, I want to be able to do it fairly quickly and not have to get too impacted. uh yeah, this I do you want to, you started on it, Thomas. I'm stepping all over your story. You want to talk about what
Well,
happened?
I'm not even 100% clear on what happened, but I know that there were DNS issues plaguing the whole system, and then the two-factor authentication component completely went down.
Well, explain what
And
it was supposed to do at first, because we have people who are listening from other countries who might not understand.
well, so here's how a caucus works: is you get 100 people in a room or whatever number, and you say each corner of the room represents one candidate. Go to the corner of the room that represents your candidate and wait to be counted. And you can go back and forth across the room to people and say, listen, I know that you're supporting this guy right now. We're over here. We're just trying to get X percent of people. Your vote for him right now is not going to carry him. It's just going to help us out if you come over. Or, hey, I understand. Did you know this about your candidate, though? You really should look into it, which is a thing that did happen after a woman voted.
So if you didn't realize, this is all part of the election process here in the U.S. So
Yes.
for the Democrats who don't, the current president is a Republican. The Democrats, they have a bunch of candidates that they're going to, who can potentially run for president. So part of the process of limiting down what candidate they're going to have as run for president are these caucuses where they're kind of like mock elections within the Democratic Party. So
Right.
everybody kind of goes through this process. In the past, it had been this physical, like Thomas was mentioning, this physical counting of heads, but not this year.
Well, and it still is a physical counting of heads. I can't figure out why an app was introduced into this process.
Well,
Because
I
there's
think the app was that, like you said, people could just go on and vote. Like it was a voting system.
but you
But
still had to attend the thing physically. You still had to do all of the normal caucus stuff of hearing out speeches from the other sides of the room. You still had to do all of that
yeah,
other stuff.
yeah.
Um,
It's an example of where they just introduced technology where probably technology wasn't needed.
and where
But
everyone who's involved in the technology said, "Don't do this. Don't
it's
don't
so
software elections."
what had happened for those who might not have heard the story is that this software solution, instead of doing this physical head count process that has always happened in the past, they introduced this software layer from this company called Shadow Inc. And they just wrote this application. It was a simple little mobile app. I'm sure there was probably a web page interface to it or something, but it went horribly wrong. From the biggest thing I saw was just it was just dumping out SQL statements. It was like there's an error in your SQL.
Yeah, like 3 or 4 different significant failures.
Wow.
And Vice released the APK file as well. So if you've got an Android phone or a debugging suite, you can actually take apart the app and read the source code for it. Which is another reason why we don't do this. So, yeah, the whole thing, total clusterfuck. Anyone in the tech industry could have seen that this was going to happen. And then there's the New Hampshire primaries happening next week, who are also supposed to be using the Shadow Inc. app. And they looked at what happened.
Hear this.
Yeah, they looked at what happened at the Iowa caucuses and said, "Oh no, we are backing out of that. We're going to use paper."
How did they land that contract? Man, that is crazy.
The complicated nature of elections in America and election funding in America is so unbelievable. There's an episode of Last Week Tonight by John Oliver that covers how election funding on a state-by-state basis works and why electronic voting and software-based voting is just the worst thing you can do and why it's so different from one state to the next. It's a ridiculously complicated process, and each state is essentially completely left on their own on what they want to do, how they want to collect the data, all that stuff. There's almost no federal guidelines for any of this. So they just get a chunk of money, and they're told, yeah, implement a solution. And this is what happens.
But I mean, was there no testing? I mean, like some of this stuff just it wasn't even load. It was just like broken. It seemed to be just broken.
The official response from Shadow Inc. is, we will apply the lessons learned in the future and have already corrected the underlying technology issue. We take these issues very seriously and are committed to improving and evolving to support the Democratic Party's goal of modernizing its election process. So they said, oops.
But I think you should look into their bank account. Did they get any deposits from the Republican Party?
Or Russia, for that matter.
You heard it here first.
The thing is, you look up the CEO or whoever and figure out who they know, and I'm sure they end up knowing somebody. Oh, wow, the guy's from Denver.
Hey, wait, I know that guy.
He's clearly a couple of years younger than I am. That is... Oh, wow. Oh, he was at... Oh, no, that's not what I was thinking. Oh, he was at Hillary for America for a year.
You looking at his LinkedIn profile? Or?
I am, honestly. Yeah, that's...
This is riveting podcasts.
That's a rough
podcasting
one.
Here. Yeah. So, I don't know. Yeah, I did see that story. That's a rough... That is so tough. Yeah.
I mean, imagine the stress of being that guy, though. That is...
Oh, I couldn't. The moment I saw the story breaking, I'm like, somebody's having a really, really bad week now. I mean, it's just like, this is not going to end well for a couple of owners of a company. And
that he was there. He was probably there, dressed in casuals and just blending in with everybody to try and monitor the situation. Because my CEO has done that in the past at previous companies where they did big fairground events, and just all he did was just sort of watch over people's shoulders and make sure it was working. That's a run from the burning building situation. Just
I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
So I'm checking out their website, Shadow Inc.'s website, and there's a. I'll go ahead and share this with the stream. So if you're watching, there's a big, we sincerely regret the delay in the reporting of the results of last night's Iowa caucus and the uncertainty it has caused.
I'm sorry we screwed up the American electoral system. I promise not to do it again next time.
Oh, man. Oh, jeez. I mean, that's got to be a rough thing to have to put on your website. You don't want to do that. Our mission is to build political power for the progressive movement by developing affordable and easy to use tools for teams and budgets of any size.
And Trump basically tweeted out, ha 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 ha, when it happened, too.
I hate that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a rough one, man. What's that?
I said we're not talking politics, though, right?
Nope.
Right.
I can hate him personally.
We are campaign and technology veterans who have built and implemented technology for Hillary for America, Obama for America, Google, Kiva, Apple. Well, I mean, they have a background. So this wasn't like just somebody's kid that said, "Oh yeah, Dad, I can build that for you guys." Huh.
It mostly wasn't that.
They've been in the business for a while, and specifically politics. It looks like so. Yeah.
Moving away.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, let's move on.
Awesome new RFC coming through for PHP. If you guys want to do any PHP talk,
let's talk PHP. Nah. What's coming in?
The pipe operator. Do you guys know the pipe operator? I feel like we've
talked about this. Haven't we talked about this?
Well, the RFC date is 2016, so possibly.
Let me, I'm pulling it up to share with the stream. Which is why I'm not talking right now, sorry. So, the pipe operator, common PHP OOP pattern.
Why is this? Hold on, this doesn't make sense. This is on my list, but it's ancient. Is this because of 8?
No, it was proposed a long time ago, but there's a...
Are they going to be taking a vote on it?
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, this is funny. This is what you use in frameworks today, so... For example, the following shows a SQL query expression built out of component pieces and executed.
Proposed for 7.2.
Let me find out.
I'm not sure this is relevant. How did we get here?
Last modified 2017, so I'm going to say no.
It showed up in the internals discussion.
Mm-hmm. What's that? Externals? Is that externals.io? I haven't been here forever. Operator overloading for. Well, there's lots of stuff in here now.
Yeah. Well, moving on from that, let's talk about PHP 8.
All right, PHP 8. What do you know?
As we're briskly moving along, there are a number of new RFCs that have been accepted for PHP 8. It's not a complete list yet, but it's moving along briskly. A lot of these are going to be backwards compatibility breaking. So
it's a new version, so.
Mm-hmm. The first one is union types. Right now, if you have a strongly typed parameter to a method or a function, it can be one type. It can be a string or an array or a Boolean, but it can't be both a string and a Boolean or a string or a Boolean. Union types allow accepting and returning of multiple types on a single variable.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of this, but I guess I'm in the minority on it. Turns out a lot of people are really thinking this is going to be a good thing.
I think the place where it's going to be the best is nullable types. So a variable can be defined as a string or null.
Mm-hmm. I think that
we'll
was
see
the
that
example that gets used a lot, yeah.
The other place this comes in is also the next RFC, which is the just-in-time compiler. If you know about how just-in-time compilers work, the stronger your code is typed, the faster the compiler runs.
Mm-hmm.
So the just-in-time compiler will say, take a chunk of code, and if it's strongly typed, then compile it down and always reference the compiled version of the code. If it's weakly typed, then it will compile a version of the code for whatever type is passed in the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And then if a different type of variable is passed in, it will compile a different version and use that different version. So if you accept a string and a Boolean, or if you don't care what you accept, then the just-in-time compiler is going to have to check what you passed in first and then make sure that it has a compiled version of that and then call the compiled version. Whereas if you have a strongly typed system, it doesn't check what you've passed in first. It just assumes that the exception is going to catch it and that the compiler doesn't have to worry about it. So the more strongly typed you are, the better off you are in performance with JIT compilers. The next thing, static return types. You can already return self in a class, but you cannot return static. Now with PHP 8, you can return a static call to the current class. This is the next one is the big one that I don't really understand yet, called weak maps. Do you guys have any
I can't even think
familiarity
what that
with
would
this?
be. What would a weak map be? What's an example of a weak map?
A weak map holds references to objects which don't prevent those objects from being garbage collected.
Huh?
Yeah, so the example they give here is in caching, where if you're caching records and there are no pointers other than the cache at the record, then the garbage collection process will still leave it there because there's the cache pointer pointing at the object. With a weak map, you're basically saying, garbage collect this if you need to. This pointer doesn't count as one towards the garbage collection process. I think that this is going to come up in long-running processes. Running a constantly running static server, something like that. I've seen a lot of people super duper excited about it, but I don't quite understand it yet, so I'll have to do some research on that one. Statically calling class on an object. Right now, if you have a class and you statically call the property class, it will give you the fully qualified name for it. But if you have an object, you can't statically call the class property of that object. Now you can in PHP 8.
I just recently learned that you could call static methods on an object, not just on the class name.
I saw that. You brought that up in the Slack.
Yeah. Very useful for testing.
And useful for immutable data, too. You can now create datetime objects from an interface. That's not really a big thing for me, but it has a lot to do with immutable dates. FDiv, which is a new function that allows you to divide by 0.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. So the rules of the universe no longer apply. It's just a math safe way of doing division, where it, instead of throwing an error, it throws the constant INF, negative INF or NaN. Let's see.
Let's just jump down to breaking changes. What's breaking?
Constant type errors.
Did you read that right? You want to try that one again?
Consistent type errors. Sorry, small consistency problem.
Are you guys looking? What are you guys? Are you guys looking at something? I'm over here watching YouTube videos. What are you guys looking at?
We're looking at the stitcher.io/blog/new in PHP 8.
Got it. I guess I could have been doing that this whole time. Sorry, guys. Sorry, stream.
Cat videos are their own drug.
The few of you who are watching, I could have been streaming that. All right, go ahead. Keep talking about it now.
The internal functions will now be throwing type errors rather than warnings. A lot of reclassification of engine level warnings. The default error reporting level is now EALL instead of EALL except notice and deprecated. So deprecated errors will show up now in a default install.
Good.
This one's a big one. The @ operator will no longer silence fatal errors. So if you've got old code that you got working by just telling it to shut up, it won't shut up anymore. An interesting change that is going to cause Y2K levels of panic is concatenation precedence.
See, already deprecated in 7.4. This change is now taken into effect. What's this do?
So if you're combining the period and the plus concatenating operators before PHP 8.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, before PHP 8, it would read it in order of occurrence, left to right. Now in PHP 8, it will prioritize addition or the plus character as a concatenation operation first, and then it will process period-based concatenation.
But it wasn't necessarily concatenation. Their example is A and B, which are probably numbers.
Right.
Operations, yeah.
So this is one of those breaking changes that could be like the error that occurs 1 out of every 100,000 records and you have no idea why. And I'm sure this one's just going to be a total nightmare for some people.
Yeah.
Who does that? I've
never,
never seen that, where you do concatenation and addition in a string. Who does that?
Yeah, right? I know. Next one.
Do you really?
I'm sure I do it in data tables all the time.
I'm sure I would have too. But it says PHP would have previously interpreted this like this. And then it does the sum and then A plus B. I mean, wouldn't that give you the same result though?
No, because it would echo out sum 2 and then it would add 3, so it would be sum 23 instead of sum 5. If A was 2, B was 3.
Oh, wow. Is that how that would work? I see.
So now it would be correct. It would be sum 5. But if you weren't working with numbers, if you were doing something different, it could lead to different results.
That is insane. That's insane.
Yeah.
So if you're dealing with pure strings, it's probably no change. But if you have numbers in there, it's gonna mess it up.
I'm actually testing this right now. Let me see. So if I did this.
So, according to Nikita Popov, the impact to existing open source code is de facto invisible because all found occurrences are actual bugs.
I mean, they're not wrong, right?
Right.
It seems like that would be correct.
He's got us there. I don't know how to fight that one. Reflection
insane.
method signature changes. That's not going to be an issue for us. That's going to be an issue for framework developers, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't use reflection? What's wrong with you?
Do you?
Move on. Yeah.
I grew up not enjoying reflections.
How do you use them, John?
Yeah, I'm curious about this.
I don't know. I know we use it somewhere. I'll have to find examples of it.
Hmm.
Well, I know Laravel uses reflection for class mapping and service providers and stuff like that. The app object is an all reflection object.
I apologize to the stream. Board 1238 just reminded me. Whenever I share my screen, we get an echo on the stream, and I don't know why that is. I haven't had a chance to look at it, so apologize. I've been doing a lot of sharing, and I'll stop. I realize that now. Sorry.
And then finally, deprecations in 7.2, 7.3, and 7.4 have all been finalized in 8.
Cool.
I believe the biggest deprecation is
Steadily moving forward here.
empty or count. I think count had a weird deprecation to it or something. So yeah, moving towards 8. Excited that just-in-time compiler is going to be a real nice one.
See, I don't know. I've been seeing stuff on Twitter about it not really being all that. And
5% is 5%.
5%.
Well, not
5%,
even
is that what you said?
necessarily. Something about the complexity. I can't remember what I saw there. Dang it! If only I knew how to Twitter better and share show notes better.
Well, yeah, they were talking about it at World too. I mean, it seems to be kind of torn whether or not for the average PHP developer this is going to be a benefit, a real big benefit. But
We'll see.
yep. Would rather have it and not use it than need it and not have it. Rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
I think what I saw was something about the complexity it adds isn't worth it. But anyway, I don't know enough about it. So stop talking.
There was a conversation on internals from Nikita that basically said doing JIT is going to require a massive amount of development for a minimal amount of gain, and that I believe he said he wasn't willing to work on it, but anyone who wanted to push PRs for it could. And that's where it got picked up by other people in the community and is now being handled by them.
Yeah, like I said, we had this conversation at World, and I think it was a much bigger deal before the speed improvements came to PHP as just a general rule of thumb. I think everybody saw it as the next big speed jump for PHP. And now that it's...
Little did we know that we had a leaky gasket in the header.
Yeah, it's pretty much exactly the problem. So
let's turbocharge this baby.
So yeah, I think it lost some of its shine when that happened. All right. Well, I don't know, man. I think that was a good show.
That's my news.
All except for the opening. The opening was a little atrocious.
Listen, don't be open shaming me, man.
Matt, it wasn't your fault. Somebody decided to stop you midstream. I'll blame that person.
I hate it when that happens, man.
Hey, somebody else wanted to talk about something last week that didn't get brought up this week.
What's that?
The Google remote desktop.
Yes, I forgot to mention. I was talking about working with
that.
We talked about it after the episode. I forgot to mention that in attempting to support my mother's computer, which hadn't been updated from Ubuntu like 1 point something in a long time, I found that the best remote administration software I could find and guide my mom through over the phone was a Google product. It was
remotedesktop.google.com.
Yeah, remotedesktop.google.com installs initially as a Chrome plugin, and then identifies your OS and has you just install an executable, gives you a support number, and you just give the support number to your tech-savvy son or son-in-law, and that's it. It worked out really nice.
Thomas, it installs as a plugin in Chrome and Firefox, and maybe even Safari.
Impressive.
Yeah.
I did have one last thing.
Okay.
Did you guys watch the video I posted about sushi?
I did.
So
the package.
Yes. So sushi is a package that adds an array type driver to Eloquent. But somebody realized that because of how sushi works, you can populate that array at runtime from an API call.
Which is pretty cool.
It is like a 2-minute video, and I think probably a minute 30 of it is just saying how cool it is, and 30 seconds of it is showing you how to implement it, and it's like crazy easy, and really opens up an interesting endpoint possibility for APIs.
Well, we're talking about performance. This won't be great for performance, that's for sure.
No, because it loads the total data set and then executes collection methods over it, I believe.
It makes an HTTP. And what they're doing in the video, it makes an HTTP request to load the entire data set. So
right,
that whole process is slow. So when they were talking, when they were initially talking about this, and they were putting arrays directly into models, I wasn't that impressed with that. It's like, okay, that seems like an edge case.
Well, that's just a collection.
Right. I mean, I was thinking, okay, I could see using this for instead of having a types table in your database, you have a types model that you populate, and you don't have to worry about maintaining another database table. And I could see some use cases for it, but I wasn't all that impressed by it. But
it sounds like this could be an easy replacement for isn't CouchDB all HTTP REST APIs? So you can easily build out your models using that instead.
Wow, that's a good point, John.
I'd have to look. That sounds like a doable thing.
That's a really good point.
One other thing from the video.
It's almost like a driver. It would almost be like a driver for CouchDB. You're absolutely correct. I'm gonna have to look at that.
You'd have to tweak it a little, but
I don't think so, because you're still defining the endpoint, the URL, which is all couches. Couch is just a bunch of HTTP URLs, and then you're doing gets and puts and I'm assuming this does puts. Man, that's actually pretty cool. I think I'm gonna try that tomorrow.
I'm sure there's already a couch driver, but if you had just one set of, if you only have one set of data over there, but you use MySQL for everything else, maybe it makes it easier that way.
He's also using this ZTTP, which I don't know what that is.
That's what I was going to say. So the ZTTP thing is one of the other things that really impressed me, which is like a really simple wrapper for Guzzle that you don't have to worry about all of the stupid PSR7 definitions for Guzzle for.
Really? Yeah, I'm looking at it now. ZTTP. Wow. Where's this been?
I don't know, but I just saw it in this video, and I'm like, oh, I have to start using that now instead of Guzzle or curl or anything else, because it's just a straight-up object-oriented HTTP caller.
Yeah, like I said, I'm refactoring something that's all it's doing is calling API endpoints at third parties, and maybe I'll look at
Do you really have that much trouble with Guzzle?
Look at what ZTTP does, because it's like so easy.
It's pretty clean.
It's really easy to read too.
But I'm wondering how it handles like bear tokens and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. I think you're right, Thomas. I think it's super simple for this very super easy calls, but it probably starts to break down when you start to do more complex API sort of endpoints where you have bear tokens and
Bear tokens?
yeah. Is that what they're called? Bear.
Yep.
I must know this is under some other name.
I might be calling it
It's
wrong.
header authent. No, you're right. It's header authentication.
Oh, okay,
It's,
OAuth 2. Yeah.
OAuth 2 bearer token. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's does a lot for OAuth.
Yeah. I think you're right, Thomas. I think for like the simple stuff, it's probably worth looking at. But yeah, once you start to get a little bit more complex, there's not a whole lot of. There's no at least on the GitHub repo, there's no documentation for it.
I think what looks like no documentation is actually the complete documentation.
You think that's it, huh? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's cool. I'll have to give that one a look. That's one of those good to know ones. I guess that one slipped by me. I didn't see that. Oh, geez, it's been around for a while. There's a Laravel news article on this back in May of 2017. It's the exact same documentation, so it hasn't changed much.
So Thomas, the next step for your interview is, instead of having to talk to anybody, you just say, "Listen to this episode." Look at you being awesome, so resourceful.
I'm going to keep them away from listening to this show as much as possible.
What?
I think.
Come on, you'd be a lock. Be locked. Come on.
I've become more active on Twitter.
I've seen that. You're even talking to people in the Laravel community. I saw you exchanging some back and forth with Matt there.
Yeah. I don't know what's gotten into me.
Start following you.
Again, I recommend against it.
Oh, I see. I logged into Facebook today. Facebook has a new interface. It has a whole dark theme to it now.
What?
You guys are Facebook users. You didn't even bring this up. I thought this was like a big deal.
I haven't seen this. I think you're getting experimented on.
Oh, am I? Well, I'd be a terrible person to experiment on because I never go to Facebook. Yeah, mine looks completely different. I'll send you guys a screenshot. I got a dark. I have a choice between a dark theme and a light theme, and everything is nice and rounded edges. And
I do not have that at all.
Me either.
Oh, I'll send you a screenshot here. Let me get that going.
Yeah, screenshot me your empty feed.
It is pretty empty, actually.
Although, I'll tell you this. Occasionally, I'll pull up Facebook, and it'll just say, "Hey, you should add friends because you have nothing here to show." And that's happened for a couple months now.
Yeah, I have no friends. I don't do Facebook.
No, I have friends. It's just every once in a while when I load Facebook, it loses all of my Facebook wall data. It just doesn't know how to get it.
I don't know where that screenshot just went.
I'm trying to sell my 3D printer on Facebook.
Oh yeah, I meant to bring that up. What's going on there?
I had a guy ask on Monday if it was still available, and I said yes. And then
why are you selling it?
I don't use it,
Oh.
and I needed the space and the money. So Wednesday, he says he hasn't said anything for 2 days or 3 days straight. Wednesday night, I say, "Are you still interested?" And he responds immediately, "Yes, very much." And it's almost Friday. What is this? You are. Congratulations! You are an experimental Facebook user.
Where do you see that at?
You have
Yeah,
a
you just
different
said-
Facebook than us.
He's just saying it to you.
I thought you saw it on the page somewhere.
Facebook is known for rolling out theoretical changes to small groups of people.
Hmm.
So this isn't too unexpected or surprising.
I thought
from
the little
them.
ad up in the right hand corner was interesting. It's like, hey, yeah, I'm actually interested in Neo4j. It's been a long time since I've looked
Me
into
too.
it, but yeah, I'm surprised that this popped up.
I can't
Seems
tell
on the
what
top
this
of my
tab is.
contacts.
It's POR. What is that tab?
What do you see?
What? Nothing.
POR. That's just foreign. What are you talking about?
Is that my website?
Guys, what are you looking at, man?
He does-
Oh well.
Yeah.
All right, are we done now? Are you done?
Yes. Clearly, we're
Are
all
we
getting
wrapping
too
up?
tired.
We're tired.
Clearly. Keep it ugly.
Weird.
Oh, was that too early?
All right, that's it. That's it for episode 177 of PHP Ugly. I'm Eric Van Johnson.
I'm John Congdon.
I'm Tom Rideout. Hey, hey.
Keep it ugly.
Keep it ugly.
What's with the hey?
I don't know. Do you know how nice it is
John.
to edit a podcast where all of the streams sync?
All right.
It's so...
You should edit. John and I do interviews, and you don't even have to edit it. It's just we ask like 2 questions. The people talk for 30 minutes, and that's it. Not bad. Yeah, it's the small things in life. So I
Really
need to.
is.
I was checking out. You commented on Matt's podcasting setup, or well, his mic setup and all that.
Yeah.
What mic do you have now? You don't have a USB mic, right?
No, this thing's it's a condenser mic with an XRF connection that goes into a high voltage conversion box. Then that pipes out to standard RCA jack.
Well, how does it plug into your computer? Oh, the RCA?
Standard plug.
Uh,
It's not optimal, but it works. Like if I had my druthers, I'd get an XCF to USB, or not XCF. What's it called?
oh shit! I forgot to talk about that artist who was hacking Google Maps. Did you see this, Thomas?
The guy with 100 phones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
Shit,
that guy.
I had that
Is it
on.
real though?
What do you mean? Is it real?
Yeah,
it's
yeah, oh,
real.
yeah.
He's just got 100 phones. And he's walking. I guess he's walking right in front of the Google campus in whatever country he's in.
Causing traffic jams.
Virtual traffic jams that aren't real. Are you guys serious? Do you guys not really have the Facebook layout?
Or,
Yeah.
I would do.
I wonder if
Thomas,
I
I
got
thought
a
you were
Chrome.
the real Rideout.
I am the real Rideout.
And
Or
who's Matt
just
Rideout?
real Rideout, not
Oh.
the.
Yeah. Okay.
John, you are following Thomas on Twitter. Don't even act like you're not following him.
I know. Stop. You still have Buscoin listed as your
Oh shit! Do I?
What does he have?
Buscoin.
Yeah. So XLR
Hey,
is
you
the thing
found
I'm
it.
thinking of.
Buscoin.com. Yeah, baby. No, it's bust. You need to change it to BUST.
But then he sounds like he's paying strippers.
Hey,
No, that was the idea in the first place.
Say that could be the next thing. Oh, you still have Cardiff as your where you live. You're just lying. You're just lying.
I have a new domain that I'm working on for personal blogging stuff.
So I'm still streaming. There's only 2 people watching. Hey, you 2 people watching, thank you for watching. Hope your Patreons.
We forgot the Patreons
sorry.
again. Every time.
We always forget the Patreons. We said we were going to do videos for them, and John's never in the office, so we don't do videos for the Patreons anymore. And
What do I gotta be in the office for? Nobody wants to talk to me.
We got to do something. Do something for them. We'll do
So I
something.
want to.
But anyways, you two, right now, watching us right now. Thank you for watching us. We're ending the stream.
Me and Thomas, but that's okay.